Brief history about evangelical Christians and the Republican Party. Currently, there is a multitude of different Republicans who associate with evangelicals. In recent polls, 72% of evangelicals agreed with Trump. So the question is, where did this symbiotic relationship between evangelical Christians and Republicans come from? So, historically, it came out of the Civil Rights Movement. That's where I trace it back to. For instance, the Jerry Falwell and Bob Jones University, they created what was called segregation academies. Reason for this is they wanted a separation of religion. They did not agree with the inclusiveness of different races or religions, so they wanted their own separation from that. With the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Act, and amongst the federal dollar and social welfare increasing, the tension that these evangelicals felt started to increase. They felt that the nation and the government had abandoned the whites in favor of the blacks and Latinos. Basically, from there on out, there was this view that the nation was failing. And so, when people like Richard Nixon come in with their Southern strategy, trying to get Democratic voters and trying to have a more conservative view, the evangelicals follow through with it. Their belief is basically they want a return of traditional values. They see all the hippie culture, the civil rights movement, women's rights, etc., as kind of an infringement of those traditional values. There's also ethical concerns about education. I think really harkens back to the beginning. But really the question is, with the support of the evangelicals and Republicans, how much is based off of faith? How much has been bought in that relationship between the two? Because it would appear that they go hand in hand with each other. A huge majority of the Republican Party are evangelical voters, as well as people in Senate or power or Congress. So, with that, kind of some of the topics that we discussed in the peer review articles are these. So, David A. Hollinger, he did the Evangelical Capture of the Republican Party and its implications for the Academy. So, his concern is the suppression of the education system. He feels that basically the right wing are looking for dumbed down voters. They are operating like a head of church or a head of state. And so because of this, it's intertwined between religion, and the Republicans are playing on that religious aspect in order to get voters. He also goes and looks at statistics for that education. Like in the past, there was a higher percentage of college students who voted, and that has since decreased for the Republican Party. Adrian Paps critiques the bipartisans of both parties that have dominated the U.S. political scene since the 60s. He views both parties alike as an endorser of neoliberal principles, military interventionship, and expansion. These are some of the things that the really coming alight with the New Age deal was this neoliberal movement. They felt that the government had overreached and had gone beyond these traditional values. And so when you have people like Nixon come in and Reagan, and with the failures of Carter, we really get a sense of why America moved from that liberal movement to that more conservative movement. Rolski, producing the Christian Right, conservative evangelicalism, representation, and the recent religious past, he goes over the history, kind of how it all starts, like I just explained, in kind of the 70s. So again, that new deal movement that came out of like FDR, over time it didn't really stick for a number of reasons, with the increase of the civil rights, the new liberal movement, the counterculture, the hippies, the fears that women wouldn't be doing their household duties. This really stroked a lot of fear into the more traditional South. That and the fact that the Southern whites didn't really care for black rights all that much. There was this huge movement from the Democrats to join the Republican Party, such as the Southern strategy that Nixon employed. So he just kind of goes over that beginning in the 70s with the electronic church, the mass mobilization, of how this party really gained a foothold. And then, lastly, the paradox of American evangelicalism, the views on immigration. I really didn't touch on this one much. I touched more on the education side in my executive summary. However, if you do get a chance to read it, I think it's very important because it talks about the paradox. As Christians have moral values, his argument is, why do they look so down on immigration? So really, the solution here, we've listed a bunch of ethical concerns, mainly about how other people live their lives. So, my suggestion for these Republicans and evangelicals is to return to their fundamentalism, understanding about Christian brotherhood and nurturing aspects. And if they could return to their faith, then we could see, again, more of a separation between politics and religion, which I think has really plagued the United States in most recent years. There is a return, especially with the most recent members in government right now. There has been a return to those religious ideas, but in a more manipulative way in order to get what they believe in. So for that, I'm going to have to wrap up my essay here, but that is my take on evangelicalism and the Republican Party.